Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Nxtlvl Racing V8 Supercar race at Watkins Glen. This track was originally started as a street circuit in order to revive a small town in the Finger Lakes region of New York, and eventually turned into its own circuit when demand became larger. Tonight's racing will feature elevation changes throughout corners and will require drivers to be smooth in order to finish the entire hour-long race event. We have a good points battle going on so far this year. As we take a look at our points, Wesley Dunphy has brought himself out to a fairly large lead, about a 70-point lead in front of Nicholas Camp. So Nick will look to cut the gap on that by a little bit. Gregory Bush sitting about 70 points also behind Nicholas Camp, and Gavin Stambaugh 120 behind that. The points battle is starting to spread out a little bit, although one good finish by any of these drivers could change the results in their favor, and they'll be looking to do that today. Let's take a ride along with Wesley Dunphy as he takes his outlap. As you come up the hill, you'll try to get back on throttle as best you can in order to pull all the way out. Going to be using the full range of acceleration going up this hill before immediately getting on the brakes, swinging over into this bus stop, off to the right, back off to the left, and try to get on throttle as soon as possible. You can use most of the curbing without getting penalized. Be very patient on this long right-hand corner as it slowly drops down the hill a little bit. Get back on throttle, get down into this hard on the brakes. There's going to be a compression zone right here as you turn off to the left that's going to throw off the balance of the vehicle a little bit. Back on throttle once again. Down at this section, you're going to be hard braking before a right-hand corner. This is going to mess up, and we'll see a lot of lockups tonight here for anybody getting a little too aggressive. Gavin Stambaugh did come in first lap, completed 153.252. We will see laps a little faster than that. I'm sure he's not quite happy with that lap time. Hard on the brakes back into this right-hand corner. You'll try to be patient on throttle. You can use a little bit of that curbing to the outside, but if you get too far to the outside, you will be penalized. Back off to this left-hander. Got a little bit of a straight here, and then a slight braking zone before swinging off to the left and then back onto throttle. You can use a little bit of the outside here, but if you go past that white line, we'll see drivers picking up penalty points. Off to the right, this is going to be our pit lane entrance right there, so we will see drivers splitting off right there, and hopefully it doesn't cause too many incidents. It does offer an opportunity for drivers to control the speed going into that pit lane and therefore be able to make some passes with pit strategy. You're able to use a little bit of the curbing right here coming off of turn one and then back through down here on compression. As long as you're right in the right spot, you really don't need to lift. And we'll see drivers get a little courageous with how they control going through that turn right there. Once again, back up the hill, full speed, and then hard into that bus stop. Today's race is going to be a lot of patience. A lot of these corners, you can make a lot of time up, but if you get too aggressive and get on throttle too soon, you'll definitely end up spinning or burning up the tires. And tires is going to be the name of the game when we're in a 1 hour long race. We're almost halfway through our practice laps, and so far we've only had one fast lap put down. That's by Gavin Stambaugh. Adam Swope and Gregory Bush both finishing their first lap around the 2-minute mark. That's not going to be anywhere near fast enough, and I'm sure they have plenty left to offer before finishing this practice. We have a 20-minute practice session, then another 10-minute qualifying session. That qualifying session will be single car controlled. We will be able to jump on board with multiple cars at a time. However, they will be not qualifying at the same time. Wes getting a little loose coming out of that corner. We will see a lot of that today. Because of the way that these cars turn, you really have to kind of be aggressive with them, but you're right on the knife's edge at all times. Once again, seeing that pit lane right there. You try to hold all the way to the right if you're pitting, and then try to brake right before those cone markers to get down to speed. We'll see a couple passes happen there. Jeremiah Vincent comes in with a 152.873. Wesley Dunphy, another 4/10 faster than that with a 152.4. Gavin Stambaugh not improving on his lap. Barely off the pace of his best. Kyle Johnson with a 154, 158. The middle of the pack should be a decent battle today. Wesley Dunphy and Jeremiah Vincent, though, are both drivers that run in the Speed Cup Series and have experience running at this track, and we'll probably see that experience come into play later on in this race. They both are used to long races at this track. Adam Swope having a little bit of an advancement on his lap, but not enough to really count for anything. We're about to see Gavin Stambaugh come through a completed lap and Adam Swope behind him. We'll see if they can make any improvement to their lap times. Gavin Stambaugh will actually go a little bit slower. Adam Swope, his lap won't count for anything. Looks like he gets a little loose and ends up spinning out going to that turn one. It's extremely easy to do as it compresses while you're in the brake zone. Once again, this track has a lot of elevation change. Although it only has a total of 500 feet between highest and lowest point, you're constantly going up and down in the elevation, and that causes a lot of compression and a lot of time where you're, like in this bus stop, you're into your braking zone, it kind of crests the hill, and then you turn back the other way, and you can definitely get loose doing that. Drivers are going to try to cut the curbing there in order to try to skip out on that problem. Couple more drivers coming through, but nobody running any faster. Wesley Dunphy, in fact, goes 1 second slower. Gregory Bush will take off a little bit of time as he crosses the line with a 153.955. Not going to be enough. He's a second and a half behind the fastest time. These drivers in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place are capable of running those faster times. It's just going to be a matter, are they saving it for qualifying, or are they just trying to find out different spots on this track that they haven't already figured out? Most of these drivers have run extra practice laps, had an hour-long session with each other to try to dial in and see how they can run. But there's still always going to be some stuff that you can find. Looks like we got Nicholas Camp out there joining the session. He hasn't completed a lap yet. I'm sure he'll be looking to try. Looks like also we have John Adams has not completed a lap. So 2 drivers waiting for their times. We'll see where they finish out. Adam Swope is also capable of running those faster laps, so we'll have to see what's going on with him. So he comes in with a 157 flat, not anywhere near the time that he's going to need in order to be up there with the rest of the group. Kyle Johnson taking off about a half second. Not going to be enough to really help him out. We're going to be bringing home, looks like Nicholas Camp. No, it's going to be John Adams crossing the line at the moment. That'll be right there, be Nicholas Camp and I believe Jeremiah Vincent going through that second section. They'll both come across the line. We'll get to see if they completed a clean lap. Kyle Johnson completes a lap, ends up running 8/10 slower. Nicholas comes in with his first fast lap, a 153.643. So our 2nd through 5th place cars are all within about 3/4 of a second. That is going to be a tight battle in the middle of the field, but once again, just like we had last week, Wesley Dunphy is going to be running away with this if they can stay the way that they are. Kyle doing a good job of using all the available road right there. He's going to be launching it off into that bus stop. That's going to be a real tight section. And then hard onto that right-hander. Because the way we're running this boot, they don't have to swing it all the way to the right. They actually get to accelerate a little bit out of that section. A little bit of damage on the front right of Kyle's machine. Not sure if that's just part of the game and not accurate at the moment. Nobody else bringing in any fast times yet. We still got about 5 minutes left in this practice. Kyle Johnson doing his best to keeping the car clean. As I say that, gets a little bit aggressive over that curbing. It's very easy to overshoot that curbing, kind of lose control of it, using all the available exit right there. A beautiful line from him. We'll see if that lap counted for anything. It's actually a second slower for him, so going to be no help in that. Looks like Gregory Bush comes in, ends up running, jumping all the way up to third with a 152.9. Drivers are starting to hone in on their lines. We got 3 drivers in the 152s. Gavin Stambaugh and Nicholas Camp running 153s behind him. So the top 5 drivers going to be a second and a half difference. This is one of those tracks where one mistake can really throw off an entire lap time, so we'll see drivers trying to take advantage of that. If you have a battle where you're just following somebody, you can follow them for a while and just wait for them to make that mistake and then capitalize on it. Once again, as we've seen at other races, these cars do have aero advantages, so running in front of somebody stirs up enough aero that the car behind can end up getting a little bit tight. So we'll see how that takes effect today in the race. We got John Adams out there getting a little bit squirrely, not sure what's going on there. Nicholas Camp sitting on the outside of that, not sure what he's got going on there. Wesley Dunphy keeping it nice and clean. He's run pretty much the fastest he's probably going to run on this track, so we'll see if he's going to go ahead and keep it out for another lap, and it looks like John Adams doing his best to kind of follow him through there and get a little bit of the tips. He's not using that outside runoff that we've seen multiple drivers use. These are the little advantages. Oh, as we see Gregory Bush get a little aggressive, ends up running into that inside wall, rear end kicking out. Jump on board Adams. Swope kind of loose getting into that corner. These cars, because the way the rear ends run in them, it's very easy to lock the car up on braking. So we see he passes Jeremiah Vincent running past Gregory Bush. John Adams jumping out there trying to run another lap. I don't believe he's going to have enough time. We've only got 2 minutes left in this run, so just enough time for it to finish his warm-up lap. Might give him an opportunity to see a little bit of the track, but not going to be enough to run a fast lap. We see that car nice and loose out there. It's very easy to do as we see 2 drivers get into it. Not sure if Kyle meant to do that or if just didn't realize the amount of speed differential. See how Kyle's going to run it in there. I believe he's on cold tires too, so it's probably not going to stick very well as you see him getting loose into the entrance of the bus stop. John Adams does a good job of following him to the outside of it. This series has done a very good job, as you see Ford and Chevy running back-to-back right there. The series has done a very good job at balancing out the power differential between the two of them to the point where there's less than a second in top speed and acceleration. There's less than a tenth of a second in acceleration difference. So these cars do race fairly well next to each other. We're not going to see a lot of difference in how they handle. Mostly just visual aesthetic differences between the two of them. So you see both drivers get a little loose. Not sure what's going on there. These 2 drivers don't have any beef, so I'm sure that was just kind of either a mistake or they're just kind of laughing about it at this point. Hopefully don't see too many cars during the race without a nose like that. Jeremiah Vincent's still out there. He's going to possibly bring in a fast lap, but I don't believe so. Wesley Dunphy just sitting in the pit. Catch a little glimpse right there at Gregory Bush. Some of these drivers are going to switch to different comms. They're not going to all be in the same comm group, so we will hear a few things being said over the comm radio by chance. Jeremiah Vincent is going to complete his lap. I don't know if it's going to count for practice time. No, he went off at some point, so it's not even going to count for him. We're now going to switch over to qualifying. Before that, I'm going to go ahead and show, once again, the point standings. Wesley Dunphy off to a fairly large lead. Then Nicholas Camp, Gregory Bush, and Gavin Stambaugh for our top four. The battle for third is going to be probably the point of contention today. Drivers keep the way that they were in practice. We might see a little bit of shake-up between Gregory Bush and Nicholas Camp, but other than that, Wesley Dunphy doing a good job of holding his lead off. We'll transition back to the track, see who ends up running. Gavin Stambaugh, first car off. Looks like Kyle Johnson running out of turn 1. Gregory Bush beginning to enter the track. These drivers are going to go out, try to warm the tires, try to set the car up and get it ready to go so that way you can set a fast lap. You do have 10 minutes of time to set a good lap, but as we saw during practice, a few mistakes will end up screwing you over on the lap time, so it is going to be a matter of trying to get one good fast lap. Gregory Bush and Nick Camp both in the same section of track, although once again not running together during the qualifying session. Single car qualifying, but we do have the ability to watch multiple cars. Gregory Bush keeping it nice and clean on his outlap. John Adams out there running, almost completing his outlap. So he comes up out of the boot, back onto that stretch. Multiple long stretches, so that gives multiple long stretches, so a mistake in those corners will really bite you on the straightaways. It's very difficult. This track has longer stretches and then immediate turns that are very difficult because of the elevation changes, and those changes can cause mistakes. You get a mistake on that, you lose all your time on a straight. You can lose up to a second or two just on one straight. We will see that come into play during the race, I'm sure. Adam Swope coming through, getting ready to run his first flyer. John Adams also about to run a flyer. Seven minutes left to go in qualifying. Plenty of time for these drivers to set 2 or 3 laps. Adam Swope doing a good job of running clean up the hill. Not too much lifting right there. That's going to be one of the sections where drivers can get a little more courageous, and depending on how aggressive you are or how courageous and brave you are coming up that hill, you can catch a lot of speed. Just a weird mistake on the brake zone right there from John Adams. Not really sure what he meant to do there. Adam Swope continuing on, chooses not to use the outside of that line, gets it set up to run hard into this left-hander. You can carry quite a bit of speed through here. Down into this braking zone on compression. Real easy to lose time through this corner. Carries it through fairly clean. I believe he's going to be our first driver to come in with a time. Gavin Stambaugh might beat him to it, but not by much. Drivers out there running their first fast lap. Gregory Bush not too far behind on track time. Gavin Stambaugh will bring in the first fast lap of 152.789. Wesley Dunphy coming right behind him at 152.681. That'll put him in first place at the moment. Kyle Johnson with a 154.5. talking to him in the pre-race, it looks like he can run a little bit faster than that, so I'm sure he's not happy with that being a qualifying time. Although that'll probably be his race pace, is the way he was saying. Nicholas Camp jumps up to third with a 1:53.131. I believe Nicholas Camp and Gregory Bush and Kyle Johnson all can run faster times than that. Jeremiah Vincent, second in the practice, but now fourth on his first completed lap with a 1:53.5. Kyle Johnson, a 1:54.5. These drivers all can run a little faster than that. I believe Wesley Dunphy's about at the same time that he was running in practice, so we'll see if he can run that consistently during the race. If he can do it, then it'll probably be a runaway win the same way we had last week. Hopefully not too many shenanigans. That first right-hander can cause a lot of chaos during our start, so we'll have to take a look at that and watch it real carefully. Gregory Bush having a little bit of a mistake there on exit. I'm going to watch Wesley Dunphy coming down the front straight. Hard into that braking zone to the right. This will probably be our camera view for the beginning of the race, so that way we can make sure we don't miss any of the chaos. Wesley Dunphy and Gavin Stanbell both come in with a 1:53, but that's not going to be a change to their lap times. Nicholas Camp ends up running a second slower with a 1:54, so not too much shakeup in the positional standings. Jeremiah Vincent and Gregory Bush both end up not completing their next lap, so no help there for them. Coming down to 3 minutes till the end of this session. Drivers are running their third lap here, hoping for an advancement on what they're running. We will be running a 1 hour long event, so we'll have one pit cycle. These drivers will be given one extra set of tires. We'll see that come into play as strategy. Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job of keeping it clean. Like we said, he runs that speed series, so he is very familiar with this track and knows how to turn good speed on it. So far, still no change or shakeups in the positional standings. John Adams comes in with a 1:58.933. That's not going to be anywhere near what he's wanting to run here. Adam Swope's struggling a little bit in the back of the field to 1:56.3. Kyle Johnson does make a small advancement, but not enough to really count for anything. Jeremiah Vincent keeping it pretty clean. Nicholas Camp getting close to this finish line. Both those drivers going to be running it down the front stretch. We'll get both those times very shortly. See if either one was able to increase their starting position. Nicholas Camp's lap time doesn't end up counting. Jeremiah Vincent runs 0.004 seconds slower. That's got to be a heartbreak right there. Nothing to help him there. These drivers are probably pretty close to ending. With 1 minute left, some of these drivers are going to decide to sit in the pits and just let it end out so that way they can get their pre-race jitters out of the way. Some drivers, as we've talked about, going to get up, use the bathroom, grab a drink, be prepared for this race. And some drivers are going to end up doing all sorts of crazy things in order to try to get the shake and the nerves out of it so that way you're ready to go for the race. We'll see Gavin Stanball. He'll probably complete a lap, and Wesley Dunphy's going to shut it down, it looks like. He's not going to go ahead and complete that lap. I don't think Wesley Dunphy was trying to increase his starting position by any chance, so looks like he's just out trying to run a little bit. Might be a turn or something that he thinks he can do better on. That will complete our qualifying session. The order will stay the same. Drivers begin to line up on the front stretch of the track. So we'll get one full warm-up lap before we send them green. This is a beautiful, prominent track in New York, and it's going to be great to see these drivers out there running. We'll get one lap behind the safety car for them to warm up. Starting order appears to be fairly close to the way that it was last week. Wesley Dunphy starting first, Gavin Stambaugh in second, Nicholas Camp in third. I believe Greg Bush was in fourth and Jeremiah Vincent was in fifth, but that might actually be the same as the week before. I believe Kyle was up there too, so I'm not sure quite where the starting positions, but it looks like this field is starting to settle itself down. It's just going to come down to how the beginning of this race goes and how well the first corner madness goes down. Drivers will have to remember the fact that this race can't be won in the first lap. They'll embark on their warm-up lap. This is going to be time to warm up tires, warm up brakes, try to get settled into the groove. Wesley Dunphy has been here before, so his way of starting is not going to be any tricks. It's just going to be a matter of lining it up and getting a good run into the first corner. You see him poised and ready. Greg Bush and Jeremiah Vincent running right next to each other on the starting grid, so those teammates are going to be working together. They're second in our team championship with 3,292 points. Kitchin Motorsports, which is Wesley Dunphy and Jeremy Kitchen, are in first place with 3,489, although because Jeremy Kitchen's not going to make the race tonight, that will be a shakeup in the point standings. For our team points, there isn't anything on the line for the team points, just a matter of pride. But depending on how well Jeremiah Vincent and Gregory Bush run, they might be able to overtake in those team championship points. Nice, clean, organized as they're running their outlap. Wesley Dunphy doing a good job of staying right there on the pace car, giving enough room. He should have almost a full run down that front stretch to be able to get some space and try to set up his first lap. If he can get out to a good first lap the way he did last week, he should be able to run away with this race the same way he has been, although there's not much of a gap in the lap times between him and Gavin Stambaugh. A little bit more of a gap between him and third. They come around that boot sequence onto this straightaway. Get one last look at these cars before they get ready to go green. This is a field of friends, and they all do race other series together, so shouldn't be too much animosity. Should be just a nice, clean run if they can help it. Nicholas Camp and that Hendrick scheme. And then we've got back there Kyle and Adam Swope running that Fire Camaro scheme together. Alright, we're going to shift over to this TV screen, and hopefully we can get a good look on the first corner. As we see the pace car dive in, action get ready to start. Wesley Dunphy controls the field. Here they go, green ready to go. Wesley Dunphy going to dive over in front of Gavin Stambaugh. Gavin Stambaugh swing over just a little bit. Nicholas Camp going to dive it on in there. Thinks better of it. Gavin Stambaugh will get the lead off there. Looks like Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job of getting in front of Gregory Bush. We've already got a straight line. No chaos in the first corner. Good to see. We're going to see a long 1 hour race. This should be a good competitive race as the top 5 drivers are all within a second lap time. Hear those engines roar as they fly into the bus stop. Tires are still going to be a tiny bit cold, but we don't see any mistakes there for most of the field. Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job there, keeping Gregory Bush in tow. Looking like a really nice parade lap. Wesley Dunphy starting to put a little bit of a gap on the field. Gavin Stambaugh doing pretty good. Decent gap between him and Nicholas Camp. Looks like Kyle Johnson and Adam Swope running nose to tail right there. 2 teams in the second half of our field running nose to tail. It's going to be an interesting battle. Those teams will do a good job of running together and helping set up some picks. Looks like we're going to have a clean first lap. This is one of those tracks, as we were talking in the pre-race. It's a matter of keeping the car clean. One little mistake is what's going to be the difference in your finishing position. So these drivers are just going to be waiting to see who makes the mistake. Those first lap times are not going to count for much because they were slow on the start. Although we're starting to see the gaps already grow. The gap from West to Gavin is going to be 1.3 seconds. The rest of the field all around a second apiece. John Adams losing track of the field with 3-second gap between him as they go into the bus stop. Nicholas Camp doing a good job of swinging it through that. Jeremiah Vincent keeping it a little bit tighter on the exit of that bus stop. Well, long right-hander decreasing down the altitude and then swinging it straight onto the straight before a hard left-hand corner. Nothing really to write home about from any of these drivers. Wesley Dunphy losing a little bit of the lead to Gavin Stambaugh, but not by much. A little bit of a gap developing between Kyle and Adam Swope. Kyle is able to run with these higher up drivers. This is going to be a matter of him buying his time and then working his way through the field. Gregory Bush and Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job in their positions of holding on. Wesley Dunphy keeping a nice clean line through here as drivers follow him around the track. Almost looks like this race is pretty much lined up. What a beautiful line coming through there by Gavin Stambaugh. Using all of the available exit. Fastest lap already by Wesley Dunphy at 153. We have seen him run a second faster than that, so we'll see if he can run any faster throughout the race. All the top 5 drivers with a 153, separated by less than 0.6 of a second. A nice competitive race we've got shaping up here. As you can see on that graph, your track map up in the top right, Just a nice straight line of drivers. We're on board with Jeremiah Vincent, and he tries to keep a clean line through here. He does know he can run faster than this, so it is going to be a matter of him just playing the strategy game. Very well thought out and smart driver, so he's not going to make any moves he doesn't need to make too soon. This is an hour-long race. Passes can be made in pit lane based on pit strategy and how well you can get in and out of the pits. We have seen drivers win and lose in our pit lane throughout these races. We'll worry about that in another 25 minutes. Nicholas Camp doing a good job of running to the inside of that, not using so much the outside. Gavin Stanball ends up running outside. We see a few drivers in the back half of the field using that curbing. Nicholas Camp with a good line to the outside there. The gap from West to Gavin starting to grow a little bit. Nicholas Camp losing Gavin just barely, but not too much difference. Still clean single file racing from these drivers. Waiting to see who decides to make a move as they complete their second lap. Only one driver runs faster, and that's Nicholas Camp runs a tenth faster on his lap time. Not enough to beat Gavin Stanball as he runs just 0.29 seconds or 0.24 seconds faster. Keeping it clean, running into that bus stop. Nicholas Camp getting a little bit squirrely on that, but that is kind of his driving style. If he can maintain the tire heat that way, though, it'll work out for him in the long run. Wesley Dunphy did cut off some lap time on his fastest lap there, just noticing that, but not dipping down to the 152s. Talking to him last week and the way he ran, he did say he could run faster, but he was controlling his pace in order to maintain fuel mileage and tires. A smart strategy. We'll see if he's doing that again today or if he is running at his full race pace. Coming over this crest before the right-hander. Nicholas Camp doing a good job of keeping clean through there. Runs a little bit wide, but able to bring it back on. Not even going to be a penalty there. Looks like John Adams might have had himself a little bit of a mistake. 37 seconds behind the field. Our top 7 in a fairly straight line. These drivers just keeping a nice clean race pace. No shakeups or anything to worry about so far. Wesley Dunphy gaining a little bit more on his lead. Everybody ran a little slower on that lap. Gregory Bush struggling a little bit, ending up right in front of Kyle Johnson. Let's see if Kyle can take advantage of that. Gregory Bush does have a little bit of a points lead, points advantage for third place, our final podium position on Gavin Stanball. A difference of 120 points, but this gap could end up shrinking if things were to end the way they are right now. Gregory Bush would lose quite a lot of points to Gavin Stanball in the positions that they run. I'm sure he's going to be wanting to get a little more out of it. Kyle Johnson making the pass as we go down the hill on Gregory Bush. Gregory Bush starting to fall a little bit. I know he's got a little more race pace in him. It looks like Jeremiah Vincent going ahead and trying to make a good move on Nicholas Camp, thinking better of it, backs out quite a little bit. Greg Busch doing his best to follow behind Kyle Johnson, as you see, hard on the brakes into this left-hander. Kyle gets a good exit and takes off, gets a little bit of a gap there, going onto the front stretch. And it looks like that lead is going to stick, barring Kyle making any sort of mistakes. We'll jump on board with Jeremiah Vincent and see if he's got anything to offer Nicholas Camp. Looks like he's actually starting to fall off from Nick a little bit. The gap from West to second place growing by over half a second. He's got to be happy with that. Still staying in the 153s, being the only driver to continue to run a 153. Gavin Stanball right behind him with a 154.1. These drivers are going to need to run a little faster if they want to catch. Wesley Dunphy, large mistake. Not sure what happened there into the exit of the bus stop. That is going to be a big shakeup as Gregory Busch comes around Wesley Dunphy. Wesley Dunphy is going to be fighting for his life now. Those tires are going to be hot too if you see the skid marks coming out of the bus stop. So he's going to have to cool those off while trying not to give up too many spots. He'll fall all the way to 6th place. Gavin Stanball gifted a good run now. Not sure what caused that, as we were trying to be on board and see if Jeremiah Vincent had anything to give. Wesley Dunphy will have to cool down his tires and then see if he can run back through this field. We've seen a couple drivers do it this year. Wesley Dunphy has done it in the rain, but ended up losing it later on and didn't make much of it. So we'll see how tidy he can keep it. Gavin Stanball inheriting the lead from that mistake. This will be a big shakeup in the point standings if he can't pull this back out. We'll see as we come back into that bus stop if we can see any markings or see any reason why he ended up spinning out. Gavin Stanball taking the lead, ends up 1.5 seconds faster than Nicholas Camp at the moment. Wesley Dunphy doing a great job of staying right behind Greg Busch while he's trying to cool the tires down. So we'll see if he can make a run back through the field. Gavin Stanball starting to get a light amount of pressure from Nicholas Camp. After we see through this bus stop, we'll jump on board with that battle. It appears as he just got a little aggressive coming into the bus stop and just got a little loose. Jump on board Nicholas Camp and see if he's got anything of a fight going on with him and Gavin Stanball. He's just running his laps behind him. It was an uncharacteristic fail from Wesley Dunphy. We really haven't seen much of that this year. Last week included. Last week he just ran all from the field and really got a good lead going. Ended up lapping everybody up to the top 3 spots. But not this week. Looks like this week the battle is going to be for first with Nicholas Camp and Gavin Stanball. If Greg Busch can hold off Wesley Dunphy, that'll help him in the point standings. But otherwise, there's a good chance we'll end up getting a trade for 3rd place. Keeping it clean through there. Both of them getting a little bit loose. Both of them just running to that white line, deciding they don't need to go all the way out into that curbing. Kyle Johnson in 4th place, runs all the way out to that curbing, keeping it clean though. Jeremiah Vincent in 3rd place, as we see right there. A little bit of a gap to 2nd place, but he can definitely make a move. Nick doing a good job of just keeping him in sight, not being too aggressive. We've seen that aggression bite him a few times this year. So if he can just keep it clean and run his race, he has a good chance of finishing up front. We've only had 3 different winners this year, so unless Wesley Dunphy can make a really good move or late charge, we're going to see our 4th winner today. Unless Greg Busch is our only other outside winner in this race. Nicholas Camp, nice clean line through there. Gavin Stanball getting all the way out using the white line. Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job running all the way out to that white line in that background. Wesley Dunphy has shrunk the gap from him to Gregory Bush down. So we'll follow on board to see if he can make a move for that position. Going to show inside, but think better of it and come back to the outside as they get back into this right-hand corner. Going to show inside again. He's doing a good job of just trying to stay in the mirror of Gregory Bush and hope that Greg makes a mistake himself. It's the best way to make a pass at a track like this. You don't really need to be aggressive. Just kind of show that you're there, feint like you're there, and then hopefully the driver will make mistakes. We see a small mistake there from from Gregory Bush. John Adams comes in with a 159.076, 3 laps behind. I believe he was in pit lane. So must have been a mistake and a crash from him. Adam Swope losing the field by about 20 seconds. Wesley Dunphy, another big lockup and mistake into that compression zone down into the turn 1. Having a rough race here, it looks like. Barring any sort of craziness, I believe we're going to have a first-time winner today. Gregory Bush now taking off and running away from Wesley Dunphy. Got to be heartbreaking for our pole sitter. Gavin Stambaugh doing a good job to increase the lead to Nicholas Camp. Running about a tenth slower per lap on that last lap, but as long as he can keep it clean and keep running this, it's going to come down to pit strategy and how well they can manage their tire usage throughout the rest of the race. We got about 10 to 15 minutes before we start seeing pit strategy come into play. Hard on the brakes as he comes across that hill. Drivers trying to make the most to get into the outside as we see Nicholas Camp get a little bit loose coming out of it. Crossing that line, Gavin Stambaugh doing a good job, but it looks like it lifts the wheel a little bit up. These two drivers, both of them would be first-time winners if it were to continue this way. Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job. He would also be a first-time winner. Doing a good job just keeping them in the front, in the windshield, and just trying to run with them. A little bit of a gap to him, but keeping a good line. Adam Swope ending up making the pass on Wesley Dunphy. Wesley Dunphy may have actually pitted, I believe. I do believe he is in the pits. Not sure if he's swapping out tires. That'd be a pretty adventurous move to make right there. I don't know that he could make the tires last the entire time. But definitely taking a shot at it. Might have just had some damage that he needed to fix. This would definitely shake up our points. If Nicholas Camp could pull off the win, that would shrink to Wesley Dunphy's lead by quite a lot. I believe Wesley Dunphy's going to come out of these pits, may end up even being a lap down. Nicholas Camp continuing to keep Gavin Stambaugh in his sights. You can see the weight transfer on these vehicles as they go into that hard compression zone. Nice and clean onto that front straight. We'll see if Wesley Dunphy's still in the pits as we come through here. He is not. He's back on track. Fairly far back in the pack, though. So whatever sort of thing he went on to pit lane to do, looks like he didn't end up giving up a full lap. That'll be good for him. But we'll find out once he comes around where he's actually at and how far behind he is. Gavin Stanbaugh keeping it clean into that bus stop. We've already seen the lead lost there once. Drivers spoke in the pre-race, talking to them, finding out that it's very easy to make a mistake at this track, and we've already seen it now. So we'll see if we have any more before the end of this race. Looks like Kyle Johnson's starting to put a little bit of pressure on Jeremiah Vincent for third place. We'll go on board with that battle. Losing a little bit to him. Nicholas Camp making a hard charge for first as we're jumping on board. Doing a good job of just following the line through there. See if he's got anything for him. Getting a little loose in that transition. Wesley Dunphy 50 seconds behind Adam Swope. He's going to have to do a lot to make that time up. We'll have to see if he pitted during his pit cycle, if he decided to take tires or just fuel or what. It's kind of a long game play for him. Not really sure if it's going to pay off for him. If anybody has tried to figure out the strategy, though, it's probably Wesley Dunphy. We've seen him a couple times run unique strategies that has turned over the lead to him. This would be a big play if he were to pull it off. Hard into that bus stop, keeping the lead quite small. Nicholas Camp running a little bit of a wider line through that corner. Keeps it tighter on exit. Doesn't change the lead by that much. The gap down to less than half a second as these two continue to fight nose to tail. And in our background we see Jeremiah Vincent getting a little bit of pressure by Kyle. Nicholas Camp continuing to give pressure to Gavin Stanbaugh. Gavin just needs to keep it clean and run his race. If he ends up letting that pressure get to him, it makes his own mistake. That'll be the downfall of him. Nick doing a good job of keeping it clean as he's running behind him. We've seen a lot of aggression from Nick this year in different races. It looks like he's doing a very good job of controlling that aggression, just running his race. Some pretty big advancement. I know that that's been the downfall in a couple races, including the rain race. Just got a little too aggressive, ended up spinning out twice. If he can continue to run this race this way, he can end up finishing in second or even possibly winning this race. It's a smart move by him in order to run up here. Kyle Johnson cutting half a second off in his fastest lap in order to run up there and catch Jeremiah Vincent. Jeremiah Vincent ends up running 6/10 slower than Kyle Johnson, so that gap has definitely shrunk. Nick losing a little bit of ground to Gavin through the bus stop. That's a spot where you can be aggressive and get some time, but it looks like Nick is deciding just to run it clean through there. We've got about 6 minutes, and then we're going to start seeing some really good pit strategy. We'll see who decides to pit early and who decides to pit late and how that affects the lead battle here. Once again, seeing Kyle Johnson running behind Jeremiah Vincent for third place. Jeremiah Vincent in our point standings is in 5th, and this actually would help him move up the point standings, but I don't believe it would be for position. Jeremy Kitchen, if it were to end this way, because he's not in this race today, the gap from him to Kyle Johnson is 400 points, but a 300-point change on that. It's going to be a pretty big move for Kyle Johnson as they fight for 6th place back in the back half of the field. Adam Swope about 70 points behind Kyle Johnson, so not going to be much change for him. Both drivers opting to pit early. And we'll see Jeremiah Vincent run a little bit long to try to grab the lead. Let's see how this pit strategy shapes out. We'll stay on board with these two drivers for the pit cycle, see if one of them gets off cleaner. Jeremiah Vincent now in the lead. Gavin Stambaugh jumps into his pit box later. Nick Cant goes ahead and pits behind him. The race off pit road is going to determine the lead here. Jeremiah Vincent using a late strategy call. Looks like we got Gregory Bush in the pits. And I believe Kyle Johnson behind that. No, Kyle Johnson decided not to pit, so that's actually going to be Adam Swope pitting. So based on shakeup, we'll see how this works out. Wesley Dunphy has already cut his gap 5 seconds. Nick Camp getting off before Gavin Stambaugh, so that will be for position. Good job on him on playing it safe. Now they'll run out and try to get a good, clean exit lap. This will be for our first place position. We'll jump on board with Jeremiah Vincent as he tries to hold off Kyle Johnson for what is currently the lead, but will end up trading out, depending on how well Jeremiah Vincent can run that pit strategy. We got a good battle between these two drivers here. We'll have to wait a couple laps for the standings to sort themselves out. Right now, Jeremiah Vincent followed by Kyle Johnson. Both of them need to pit. Gavin Stambaugh, Nicholas Camp. Nick is actually in front of Gavin Stambaugh, but that's going to be the lead once it trades out. Looks like Jeremiah Vincent decides to pit. Kyle Johnson follows him through, so we'll see the pass happen out here on the track. See how well they get in and out. I don't believe any of these 4 drivers had any damage, so there shouldn't be any slowdowns for that. Looks like Nick Camp just had a better exit out of the pits, got on the throttle just a little bit sooner than Gavin Stambaugh. That might be based on how well he got to the entrance, actually. So as we watch down the front stretch, we'll see the difference in the gap. Jeremiah Vincent's going to come out on a slow lap when he comes out, so if he can get in front of Nicholas Camp, then that will be the lead. But if he ends up behind him, there's definitely going to be a lead. We're going to go back to the way that it was, except that Nicholas Camp's actually going to inherit the lead here. So we see these two drivers coming up the hill. And Nicholas Camp is going to inherit the lead here. Jeremiah Vincent will be off. Kyle Johnson following. Gavin Stambaugh will come in 2nd place. Wesley Dunphy, not pitting yet, has jumped all the way up to 5th. And cut the lead down, or cut the gap down by quite a bit. So far, unless he has to pit, he's going to get a little bit of gap there and might be able to make a good run. I don't know how well the tires will hold up for that entire run. But if there's anybody in the field that knows how to make it happen, it's Wesley Dunphy. So you see him back there behind Kyle Johnson. Kyle doing his best on this outlap to give Jeremiah Vincent as much pressure as he can give him. Wesley Dunphy coming up in the back. Not even halfway in this race, so we're already seeing some strategy calls by the field. Jeremiah Vincent getting a little far to the outside. Kyle Johnson a little bit tighter through there. We'll see how that affected their run. You can see that rubber line as they run through there. They're both running a little bit of a different entrance and exit. So that's how that lead's going to change. And once again, we talked about the draft changes and how running behind can make the car a little bit tighter. So Kyle going to be feeling that as he's trying to try to line it up for a pass. Wesley Dunphy shrinking the lead by a little bit more, or shrinking the gap by a little bit more. As we come through, this is going to end up showing the standings the correct way, so we'll be able to know who's in what position. We've got Nicholas Camp, Gavin Stambaugh, Jeremiah Vincent, Kyle Johnson, Wesley Dunphy, and Gregory Bush with a little bit of gap back from Wesley Dunphy to him. And Greg Bush still not pitting. Got a nice battle here for fourth. Kyle Johnson doing a good job of showing to the inside, getting hard on the brakes, and then letting Jeremiah Vincent run into that bus stop. Jeremiah is very experienced, so he's not going to fall for that. But that is the type of move that if you keep showing it and then eventually try to throw it, it might actually stick. Gavin Stambaugh taking the fastest lap that lap with a 152.967. First car to push down into the 152s. So he definitely has the pace for Nicholas Camp. Nick ran a 153.5 that lap, so his lead that he inherited from the pit stop ends up shrinking by half a second. We'll see if Gavin Stambaugh's got enough movement to be able to get past him. We'll jump on board with that battle and see if we can see anything. Right now, this battle for third place standing pretty much still. Nicholas Camp doing a good job of running clean. Ooh, Gavin Stambaugh just a little bit of a scrape on the wall. He's going to lose a little bit of top speed down this front stretch. That's not going to help him in lap times. Nicholas Camp actually running a 10th slower than his previous lap. Looks like that car's just a little bit loose. Might have overheated the tires a little bit on exit. These tires are very sensitive to heat changes on these cars. So if you overheat them, that'll hurt you in the long run. And with the way that they pitted, it's going to be a long run to the second half of this race. Nicholas Camp doing a good job of keeping a clean line. That's all he really needs to do to hold this lead. Gavin Stambaugh is probably not going to push it too much until further into the race. So right now all he needs to do is keep a nice clean run. Our battle for third continuing to heat up. Wesley Dunphy losing a little bit of time to him. Kyle Johnson doing a good job of just holding on to Jeremiah Vincent for the lead. Or excuse me, for third place. Not seeing too much movement in the field, just a lot of lead and follow. Nick doing a good job on that bus stop of running a nice clean line through it each time. We've already seen the lead change once there, so must have learned that lesson to run through clean and not try to gain too much time through it. Wesley Dunphy losing the gap to Kyle Johnson by about 2 seconds. I don't know if he's just deciding to let off based on his pit strategy. Kyle Johnson, no, it was not letting off. Kyle Johnson runs a 1:53.561 on that last lap. That's his fastest of the race. Fairly quick. Nicholas Camp out there running 154s. That seems to be the move for these drivers. Kevin Samball would be happy to hold that fastest lap, but I'm sure Nicholas Camp's got a little bit later on in the race. He'll try to go for that fastest lap. We've seen him do it a couple times. Little bit of separation from Jeremiah Vincent to Kyle Johnson on that lap. Jeremiah Vincent ends up running a 1:53.9, so it's putting another half second to Kyle Johnson. The gap from them to the leader is about almost 10 seconds. Gregory Bush kind of stuck back there in 6th place. Not really sure what happened in this race, but he's definitely struggling out there today. That's not going to help him in the point standings. He is in 3rd place by 120 points, but this might end up shrinking that lead. If Gavin Stambo were to somehow come back up with this win, that would definitely shake up 3rd place. Right now, as it sits, I don't believe it would change it, but it would tighten it all the way up to probably about 20 points. Good to see all this clean racing tonight. A beautiful run the way with all these drivers. Really got to commend it to them how well they're doing running nose to tail like this for multiple laps, not having too many mistakes. Wesley Dunphy really only having the big mistake. John Adams had one earlier in the race, ending up 7 laps behind. But other than that, these drivers are doing a good job out here tonight. Nicholas Camp putting down another fairly quick lap, a 1:54.160. Gavin Stambaugh a 10th slower, less than a 10th slower. Not going to be enough to really shrink the lead. Wesley Dunphy, his gap to 4th place is continuing to grow. Kind of a struggle there. Kyle Johnson, gap to Jeremiah Vincent, down less than a second. Not too much action going on. We still have 22 minutes left in this race. Anything can happen. Any of these drivers can make any sort of mistakes we saw from Wesley Dunphy, and that could shake up our standings. I believe we're probably going to see one pass attempt for 1st and one pass attempt for 3rd before the end of this race. It's going to be hard to try to bounce between the two of them and catch both points. You see both of them running different lines once again through that boot section. One of them entering high and running low, the other one entering low and running high. Seems to be running both pretty well. Doesn't seem to be doing much on the time-wise. Some of these drivers might just do it because they feel more comfortable with the way the car handles. One of those drivers is in a Ford, one's in a Chevy, so it might be part of the way that the car is constructed, the way that they want to run. Once again, these cars are very, very similar. There's not much difference in speed, but some of the handling characteristics might change just a tad between the two of them. Nicholas Camp continuing to hold off his lead. The lead shrinking by 1/10 of a second on that lap. Our gap from 4th to 3rd jumping up to a full second now. And Wesley Dunphy actually taking almost half a second off of his gap. Gregory Bush struggling back there, 10 seconds behind the pace. The first car to be running a 155. So you can see here the difference in less than a tenth of a second and how that plays out on the racetrack. If it adds up lap over lap after lap, you end up with these gaps the way that they are. It may seem like they're running so close together with their fastest laps, but one mistake here or there is what puts the gap between them. Jeremiah Vincent doing a good job of holding off Kyle Johnson as we jump on board for a second with that lead, or for that 3rd place battle. The gap between the two of them starting to heat up a little bit. Still no big moves to call out there. We'll try to ride on board with this battle for a few laps and see if it changes. Wesley Dunphy sticking in the back of that. These two get into each other. It could end up being good for Wesley Dunphy, but I don't believe either driver is going to make any sort of aggressive move that could cause that. These two are fairly clean drivers. As you see Kyle Johnson making a... Oh, that's going to be a big mistake from Kyle Johnson. He's going to be upset about that one, as we can hear over the radio. Didn't mean to get into Jeremiah Vincent. He's going to go ahead and go slow, try to give the position back to Jeremiah Vincent, but that's going to put Wesley Dunphy back in the 3rd place and put him back in the points battle. Kyle Johnson upset about that mistake, I'm sure. Didn't mean to get into Jeremiah Vincent, just tried to be late on the brakes, locked him up, and that's all it takes in order to cause a mistake and cause a crash there. Wesley Dunphy going to be happy to get that given to him the way that his mistake went earlier, but now it's going to be a battle. He's going to have to catch 10 seconds up to Gavin Stambaugh. Now that he's got clean air, he might be able to do it. This might be enough of a shoulder pat and a little bit of encouragement and get his ego up. He might be able to go for it. But we've seen him just trying to push for a fast lap, ending up hurting him. He keeps running those low 154s, but I don't know that it's going to be enough to catch the field. We'll jump on board with Nicholas Camp as he runs up there in that first spot and see if Gavin Stambaugh's got anything for him as we watch that gap between 2nd and 3rd change. Both of them breaking about the same point, so we're not going to see too much change here. Nicholas Camp using a little bit more of that outside curbing. Part of racing and being good at it is finding that extra time on the edges of the track where you don't get penalized for it. Nicholas Camp is known for being good at that. He did run a 155.2 that last lap, so that full second drop-off in time is what has shrunk this lead all the way down to less than half a second. So easy to make a mistake that costs you a full second at this track. These elevation changes are smooth, but it doesn't take much to mess up your brake zones. This battle getting pretty good. The gap between 2nd and 3rd to Wesley Dunphy, less than 15 seconds. So we'll see if he's got enough to be able to chase him down, or if he's just going to be content with taking that last podium spot. He ran away with the lead last week, but it's going to be interesting to interview him, the change between last week and this week, and ending up finishing the last one on the podium versus finishing up top. This will definitely be a shakeup in our point standings as we prepare for our second to last race on the 15th of this month. So in 2 weeks, we'll run the Sonoma NASCAR circuit. And this definitely will change the points battle. Greg Busch might lose a little bit the way that the points are running this way, but he should be still holding in third place. And then we should see Nicholas Camp move up a little bit. Might shrink the lead all the way down. I don't believe it's going to put him in first with Wesley running third, but it should make the points battle down to less than 50, maybe even 40 points. It's going to be something that Nicholas Camp's going to be happy about if he can continue to hold this line. Both drivers running in the top two spots, continuing to keep clean lines. So we're not seeing too much moves. Gavin Stambaugh knows that he's capable of passing him, but just deciding to ride behind him. As you see, he runs a little bit of a shallower line than he has before. Not changing much on exit, but that might be just a move to set Nick up and prepare him for a pass later on. You think of this kind of like a chess game. You don't really want to worry about setting up the move right away. You want to kind of set it up 3 or 4 turns, maybe even 3 or 4 laps later. Get a driver set up and ready for a pass that you're planning to make, and then try to change the way you're going to pass them. There's a lot of strategy that goes into doing this that they can use, and the better the driver is, the better that toolbox becomes. Nicholas Camp getting a little loose onto that outside curbing. Gavin Stambaugh keeping it in the inside. It's not going to help him on time, but keeping cleaner lines. Looks like maybe Nick's losing a little bit of the tire grip now. Kyle Johnson in 5th place now, running the risk of getting passed by Gregory Busch. I know Greg would love to get one more spot up on the points so that way he doesn't have to worry about it so much going into our next race. Continuing to run low 154s. Drivers are just keeping the lead. Some nice clean racing from these two. Gavin Stambaugh doing a good job of just continuing to apply the pressure to Nick. Going to see a little bit more going on back in that second half of the field. Gavin Stambaugh a little bit harsh on the brakes there. Not going to work out for him, it doesn't seem. Going to lose just a tiny bit on him right in that corner. Might set him up for a pass here on the lead, or in this turn, excuse me. Nick gets that car quite loose coming through that section, but it doesn't look like it's hurting him too much. Ooh, that little bit of wall tap, that's what hurt Gavin earlier. Definitely going to hurt Nick now. We should see that lead shrink by a little bit. We do. We see 2/10 change off of it. Gavin Stambaugh runs about 2.5 tenths faster on that lap. Wesley Dunphy coming in runs a tenth slower than he has been before, so he is starting to slow down. That lead, or that gap from second to third, growing by half a second. Jeremiah Vincent looks like he lost a little bit of time there. We've got a battle for 5th place going on now. as Gregory Bush continuing to turn up the pressure on Kyle Johnson. Kyle Johnson probably already in his head from that mistake before. Just needs to focus on the battle he's got going on now as Greg has got that battle down to less than half a second. We've got two big battles going on in the track. Gavin Stanbaugh continuing to run that inside line. He gets a little bit more outside coming on the exit of that. He might be able to get a little more speed on Nick coming down this hill, but I believe the pass is going to be made in that braking zone. Fifth place battle really starting to get close as drivers are on top of each other on that track map. Gregory Bush has been in this position before. He's well experienced when it comes to passing. We'll see what sort of move he's got. Kyle Johnson feeling the pressure, getting a little bit on the outside, just rubbing the dirt. Both of them hard on the brakes. Kyle actually goes a little deeper in the zone. Gets a little loose on exit because of it. Gregory Bush just keeping the pressure on his back bumper. We've got less than 10 minutes left in this, so if we're going to see a pass, it's going to be in the next couple laps. Gavin Stanbaugh continuing to just hold pressure on Nick. Nick's a fairly experienced driver, so I doubt he's going to let it get to him, but lap after lap after lap, this stuff's got to get a little frustrating. Gavin Stanbaugh right on his back bumper. We'll see how he chooses to go about this. He ends up giving up a little bit on that bus stop, thinking better on trying to get through it. Nick continuing to run a clean line through that bus stop. Looks like Kyle Johnson getting a little bit more gap back there in the field. Gavin Stanbaugh really applying the pressure through that corner. Once again, I think if he were to go a little bit further to the outside on exit, he'd get a little more speed, but obviously what he's doing is working. So he's running about 0.2 a lap faster. It's just going to be a matter. Nick makes a large mistake, runs all the way to the outside. We're going to see a lap leader change. Good job, Gavin Stanbaugh applying the pressure. Nick ends up falling and succumbing to it. Now we've got Kyle Johnson trying to hold off Gregory Bush for 5th place here. So we do have a lead change now as Nicholas Camp is going to look to try to chase back down Gavin Stanbaugh. Gregory Bush just showing that he's going to make the pass, doesn't end up going for it. That is a zone we've seen multiple drivers show that they can make it and then not take it. Kyle Johnson running, sweeping back and forth across the track in front of Greg Bush. Greg's going to be frustrated trying to get around him. Kyle Johnson makes a little bit of a late move. Greg Bush ends up running into the back of him because of it. Kyle Johnson, I don't believe he meant to do that. Looks like the rear tires just got a little bit loose. Greg Bush, it will end up jumping into 5th position. So like we said, both passes happening out on the track in those couple laps. Now we've got 7 minutes for those drivers to hold off the position. Gavin Stanbaugh now going to try to run away. Looks like Nicholas Camp might have got his tires a little too hot and now is paying the price for it. Gavin Stanbaugh just needs to run a clean race and he'll be able to keep this. The gap between them and Wesley Dunphy has shrunk by about a full second. Both Nicholas Camp and Gavin Stanbaugh dropped off a full second to 2 seconds off on their lap time that lap. So now it's just going to be a matter of keeping it clean for them so that way Wes can't do anything with it. I don't believe it's going to matter. Kyle Johnson doing a good job of keeping on Greg Bush's bumper, but not going to be enough. I think he's going to be content with where he's at. He's going to be frustrated with the few mistakes he made. As we see a large mistake, he runs it all the way out to the outside. He's going to be frustrated about that. That's going to drop him back quite a bit. I believe Adam Swope's probably going to make the pass on it. Kyle Johnson's going to drop probably to 7th place. I don't foresee him getting a 15-lap difference to John Adams. John Adams will be our last place driver tonight. What a beautiful race we've had. Not too much chaos. A few bumps, but nothing intentional tonight. It's a good thing to see as Gavin Stanbaugh starts to grow the lead between him and Nicholas Camp. This is going to be his first win if he can continue to hold this off. Nicholas Camp letting another one slip through his fingers. Looks like he just got a little aggressive on the brake zones there, down into that compression zone. I don't believe there was contact. Yep, Gavin Stanbaugh growing the lead by a full second that lap, so he just needs to run clean laps. He's got the win and the fastest laps. So there's nothing he really needs to go for. Gavin is a smart driver. He should be able to just do that. Right now, though, being in first place, those nerves get to you. All you can think is don't make a mistake, and sometimes that can force the mistake, as we see him run a little bit off into the dirt. That's uncharacteristic of his line, the way he's been running it into that bus stop. Coming over the hill, continuing to grow that gap to Nicholas Camp. Probably going to be no more passes on the track. It's just going to be a matter of if anybody makes another mistake, where they fall. Looks like Kyle Johnson continuing to hold his spot. Going to be a big fall off for him, but he will salvage a 6th place finish. Going to be a decent shakeup in our points positions. Gavin Stanbaugh will shrink the gap down to Gregory Bush for 3rd place. The gap was 120 points, so I don't know how much it's going to change on that. Probably 60 to 70 points, but it will put it in with 2 races left to go. Our next race on the 15th of this month at Sonoma. That's going to be an interesting race. Like we said, a few of these drivers race in the Speed Series and have raced the NASCAR Series, so they will have experience at this track coming up on the 15th. So we'll see how it works out for them. Gavin Stanbaugh continuing to run away with that lead up to 4-second gap. Wesley Dunphy losing a little bit more to the field, so I believe the way they run is the way they're going to finish, as we have 3 minutes left in this race. As long as nobody makes large mistakes or spins themselves out, we should be clean. Wesley Dunphy, with that big mistake in the lead, ends up pulling it back off and ends up in a 3rd place finish. Jeremiah Vincent frustrated by what happened with Kyle Johnson, but I know he's going to know that wasn't his fault, just a little bit of a late break mistake. These things happen in racing. Going to be a frustrating moment for multiple drivers on this field, knowing that they could have done a little more, but just a mistake is what took them out. This is one of those tracks where all it takes is one mistake and you end up falling the way that these drivers have. Two minutes left to run in this race. We'll probably see another lap or two. Probably 2 laps, it looks like. It's going to depend on how fast Gavin Stanbaugh gets around this track and takes the next flag. Continuing to put clean laps and clean lines down. That gap really starting to grow. And as we look up at the flagman, yes, he will end up taking the white flag. So this next flag will finish the race for them. Gavin Stanbaugh, all he's got to do is put down 1.5, just under 2 minutes, a perfect run. And that's all it's going to take. He's going to bring home his first win in this series. He's been working hard all year to get him to this point. Now that he's done everything he needed to, it's paid off for him. A nice clean pass, just waited, put the pressure on, and let Nick make his mistake. And that's all it takes in this league, is running nice and clean and waiting for the driver to make a mistake. He did a good job tonight doing it. Nicholas Camp fighting back, made the pass on pit lane, but wasn't able to hold him off. And Wesley Dunphy, after a large mistake, brings it back for 3rd place. Coming around the boot section, Gavin Stanball continuing to keep it clean. Car steps out just a tiny bit there, but keeps it tightened up. These are the moments, as a driver, you come in, you know that you've got a large lead. You know that you need to do. Just keep it clean. And right now, your nerves are going to be through the roof, just knowing that one mistake would ruin everything that you worked for. And right now, Gavin Stanball is doing a good job at keeping those nerves at bay. 2 more turns, and he is home free. Nicholas Camp keeping right behind him with 5-second gap. Wesley Dunphy actually shrinking the gap by 5 seconds between the two of them. Wesley Dunphy, that pit strategy ends up playing off for him, and Gavin Stanball will come home his first win. We see Nicholas Camp come home in second, and Wesley Dunphy will take 3rd place. Jeremiah Vincent in 4th. Gavin Stanball on a celebratory lap now, just cooling down the tires and enjoying what he worked for. John Adams out there just trying to finish his race. Third and 4th place come in, and then 5th place, Gregory Bush will be the finisher. We'll see some good points changes when we go into our next race in 2 weeks. Gavin Stanball just staying behind John Adams. John just has to finish his lap. We'll probably see some celebration burnouts from these drivers. Gavin Stanball coming around, about to finish his cool-down lap. We'll see how he decides to celebrate out there, his first win. Wesley Dunphy doing a really good job of minimizing the damage from that mistake early in the race. Bringing it back home in 3rd place. Wesley Dunphy catching up to Gavin Stanball on this finish lap. Wesley's done a lot of work with Gavin, and that's going to be a celebratory door dent. Just letting him know, hey, good job, man, you earned it. We'll see what Gavin decides to do to celebrate. Nice little donut off into the wall. Nicholas Camp coming around the boot. Gavin Stanball just burning the tires off on the wall as Nicholas Camp comes around. We'll see a little bit of crashing. This is just kind of normal for these drivers. They come around, they do this sort of craziness after the race. It's just a way for them to celebrate how they did. We'll take another look at our sponsors. From Resin, Ohio, Kitchin Motorsports, and Ducklings and Ales. And then after these drivers get done celebrating, we'll start pulling them up to the booth and interview. We'll start with Wesley Dunphy. I'm sure he's got a lot to say with how this race went. All the chaos that you can handle out here on this track. Once again, just a normal thing for these
Yeah,
drivers.
wipers come on.
All right, let's get a hold of Wesley Dunphy. Wesley Dunphy, got a copy?
Hey, go ahead there, Nate.
Congratulations on your third place finish. Doing a good job with that pit strategy after the mistake in the beginning. Can you walk us through what happened there in the beginning of the race?
Uh, Doing pretty good, pulling ahead. You know, it was my race to lose basically tonight. I clipped the grass on the chicane there, or the boot there, and sent her around. Luckily, nobody hit me. I didn't ruin anybody's race. I was starting to just kind of get back into things. Got behind Greg, was holding me up a little bit. Got a big lockup to avoid him. After that, it was, well, the tires are toast, so I had to pull in and get a pit a lot earlier than I wanted to. But we were able to nurse it home. I got a little lucky. I think Kyle got into Jeremiah there in fourth and third, and I was able to get around them. But by the end of the race, I mean, if that didn't happen, there's no way I'd have been up here. I had 12% left on my left front tire by the end of the race.
Congrats on nursing at home. A third place finish keeps you in the points run. And anybody you'd like to thank or anything else you'd like to say about tonight's run?
I just thanks our sponsors again, Kitchin Motorsports, Resin, Ohio, Ducking Nails, Nxtlvl Racing.
Well, congratulations on your finish and have a good night.
Thank you.
Next, we'll pull up Nicholas Camp and ask him how he feels tonight went. Nicholas Camp, got a copy?
Yeah, how's it going?
Congrats on your second place finish. Walk us through what exactly happened there at the end. Looked like you were running pretty good and just got a little loose on the outside. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, Gavin was just keeping his bumper to me, and I was just running the car as hard as I could, trying to stay in front of him, and one mistake, one lockup turns into he gets around me, and then I tried to catch him, and then my tires didn't have nothing left. We had cords showing on the right front, and the left front was at 12%. So
Well, congratulations on bringing her home. Did a good job on it. Congrats on the second place. Anything else you'd like to say or anybody you'd like to thank?
no, I think we're pretty good here, race control.
Congratulations and enjoy the rest of your night.
Awesome, thanks. You too. Have a good one.
Next, we'll pull up our winner, Gavin Stambaugh. I'm sure he's going to be happy about how tonight went. Gavin Stambaugh, got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Congrats on your first win out here. How does it feel?
Felt very, very good.
Looks like you did pretty good at just keeping a nice clean race and running behind, keeping the pressure on Nicholas Camp. Can you walk us through your thought process when he made that mistake?
Yeah, I was kind of a little flustered coming out of the pit lane because I think he took a little less fuel than I did. I just wanted to be on the safe side because I know this track is very fast. But my main goal out of pit lane was to keep him within 2 seconds, and I was able to be patient enough and just kind of wait, and I could kind of see he was pushing the front quite a bit and kind of understeering quite a bit, so I know he was cooking the tires a little bit harder than I was, and I was trying to capitalize on that, and luckily he had a little bit of a lockup, and that sucks for him, but I took advantage of it and ran away with it and felt pretty good about it.
Well, that's good to hear. Anybody you'd like to thank or anything else you'd like to say about your performance tonight?
Yeah, all our sponsors that put this on, and great group of guys. Thank you to broadcasting this. Really appreciate your time and doing a hell of a job.
Well, congrats on the win and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
That'll finish it out for us tonight. Once again, we'll see you back on the 15th, 2 weeks from today, 6 p.m. for our next race at Sonoma. That'll be our second to last race of the year. This will be a NASCAR circuit. We'll see a lot of good racing there. We've seen it in NASCAR, and we'll see it with these cars. It's good to see you then, and congratulations to Gavin Stanball and the rest of our field and how they